Welcome back to another wonderful session of Plato's Dialogues here with AP and NP. And what we're going to talk about today is something that you actually came out and talked to a group of people that I'm working with in a community out in Oregon, some men for the Chesterton Academy that I'm part of.
Men's Night?
Yeah, Men's Night. Men's Night 3. And you had a title that I want to use as a door into this topic for this conversation. That is, become an irrelevant amateur.
Okay.
What's that mean?
Yeah, that's good. So I think that was what I was trying to encourage all these men to do, become an irrelevant amateur. So I remember I read some quotations, and I have those if you want to hear some of them.
I want to hear all of it because I think it was really good, and there's men since then that have talked about that and literally tried to do some of the things that we did there and that you suggested to do.
I kind of relate it to what we do given we live in this modern world.
Yeah.
What can we do? How can we live life? What's the mentality that we can have when we approach everything we do, the decisions we make?
Yeah.
Right. So that's sort of what I was thinking of.
That's great. Let's do it.
So let me just tell you my inspiration for that. So this is a quotation from C.S. Lewis in a essay called On Our English Syllabus. So this is what he said. He said, and if you press to know what I mean by civilization, I reply humanity, by which I do not mean kindness, so much as the realization of the human idea. Human life means to me the life of beings for whom the leisured activities of thought, art, literature, and conversation are the end, and the preservation and propagation of life merely the means. That is why education seems to me so important. It actualizes that potentiality for leisure, if you like, for amateurishness, which is man's prerogative. You have noticed, I hope, that man is the only amateur animal. All the others are professionals. They have no leisure and do not desire it. When the cow is finished eating, she chews the cud. When she is finished chewing, she sleeps. When she is finished sleeping, she eats again. She is a machine for turning grass into calves and milk. In other words, for producing more cows. The lion cannot stop hunting, nor the beaver building dams, nor the bee making honey. When God made the beasts dumb, he saved the world from infinite boredom. For if they could speak, they would all of them, all day, talk nothing but shop. So there the idea of amateurishness, right, isn't so much the idea of you're kind of no good at what you do, right? You're a bumbler, but more the idea of somebody who loves what they do in itself, from the root meaning of that word. They love what they do because it's intrinsically valuable. Conversations, reading, poetry, worship, these sorts of activities which are intrinsically valuable, we do them for their own sake. That's what I try to convey about the idea of being an amateur. So finding the things that you can love for their own sake.
I like that. So you mentioned the word amateur. Yes. And didn't you, the word itself, the first meaning I think of is, something that you're not that great at.
Yeah.
Like I'm an amateur golfer. Yeah. I go out and try to hit this white ball with a stick.
Well, that might mean you're not good, but also if you're an amateur golfer, it might mean you do golf for the love of it and you don't get paid. True. So you're an amateur golfer, meaning you're not a professional that gets paid. Yeah. So I'm a professional philosopher, right? Which is actually in professional philosophy, you find a lot of people who aren't amateur philosophers. They don't love what they do. They're just doing it for money. Like
a second definition or something would be loving what you do.
That's actually the first definition.
That's the first.
Not for pay. An amateur does something that's not a professional, not for money.
Okay.
Does it for the intrinsic value in the activity.
And the word has a relation to love, the actual philological root. And what's that?
Amour. There's a French version of it. I can't pronounce it. I'm not going to try. I'd butcher it.
Don't want to embarrass yourself.
When I was in France and I tried to copy how they sounded, it made my mouth hurt. My muscles got all weird.
Nice excuse. Nice excuse, bro.
I did try.
Okay. That's good. You were an amateur, I guess. Okay. So I get the amateur thing. Okay. So this C.S. Lewis quote. So the animals are machines. Yes. That was kind of a weird thought because they keep doing the same thing over and over, and that's all they do. They don't want to do anything else. They don't do anything else other than what they're programmed.
They're all professionals. They're doing it all for some end or product apart from the activity itself.
Whereas a human being, their end is this leisure,
in the activity itself.
The activity itself. Okay.
Yes. So think about this. What is the activity in itself that is the most valuable activity in itself? Not because of something it gets you, not because of some product or pay. Of all activities.
I would say loving God or worshiping God.
Divine worship of the true God.
Okay.
That is the activity, right? That's what we're all aiming for. Love and union with God in the very end of our existence. That's the point of it all.
That's the end. That's the purpose.
Highest
that's
form.
The telos. Okay.
Yes. So all these other cultural activities, he called them leisured activities. Think of them as activities of culture. They're all things that feed the soul. Right? So I think of culture
Okay, you're getting there because I want to know, you brought up culture and leisure, and I want some definitions.
Yeah.
So since you're a philosopher, you do that.
So I'll tell you about culture. So culture, think of the word agriculture, right? Or you have a culture in a biology class. It's a place where things grow. So I think of culture as the petri dish for the human soul. It's all the things that, like jelly stuff on the bottom of a petri dish, you know, that the bacteria eat, and so they can colonize it and grow and expand. That's what we think of as all these activities he's talking about, are the conditions or circumstances for these activities that a society has, right? A society that has culture has things that feed the soul in itself.
I get that's Dawson has a quote on that, to bring back Dawson because I love him.
I love Dawson too.
Culture is nothing more than an extension of the womb.
Of the womb. That's right.
It's something that feeds
nurtures
and grows and
things grow and expand. That's right.
Okay.
Exactly.
All right.
That's
I also, of course, agriculture to me makes sense.
So culture there, as I'm using it in this sense, it doesn't mean like a society, like there's this culture and there's that culture. This culture lives over there, that culture lives over there.
Okay.
I mean the things in the culture, the activities and the practices, and some of them are institutionalized. Think of like the institution of art in Western civilization. That practice of painting intrinsically gets you to reflect on transcendent goods, beauty, truth, goodness, right? And so that activity is one of those leisured activities or cultured activities. And Lewis claims in that quotation that those activities are the end for human beings. And the propagation of our race is just a means to that. And so think about the economy, all the marketable goods, all the things we do in economy, all those things that are happening, that's not the end.
Yeah.
That's just a means to a conversation.
Yeah.
Right?
No,
something of higher value. And ultimately, those things are subordinated to worship. The highest one that unifies
I like that. I
all
want to stop you too, because you said so. We think of in the liberal vision that the economy, getting wealth is like the end. Getting money, because if you have wealth or money, then you can do whatever you want, or you can get what you want. Whereas in reality, you're saying that, and I can actually see that being an end would lead to, and I think a lot of happiness studies and psychology have shown we're actually more depressed now.
Absolutely.
We're actually more anxious. We actually have more psychological problems.
More suicides.
Yeah, but we have a lot more wealth.
Yes.
So to speak, like in
unparalleled, really.
Yeah, liberalism. You can't deny that that's happened.
But that wealth is earthly goods.
Yes.
They don't contain these almost intangible, transcendent goods. Your connection with a transcendent world, a world that human beings have a perspective on and a connection to that animals don't and can't. They don't have a spirit, or in other words, a capacity for the knowledge of all that is real, of all intelligible being, if you want to get philosophical.
Yeah, that was getting almost too philosophical right there, bud. But I go say, so it's the material end. To me, liberal vision is like material ends are all there is. The spiritual end doesn't even exist. It's gone. It's like
But here's how, remember, I think practical atheism is the big problem.
Yes.
So Christians that come to my class, for example, even Catholics that come to Franciscan, I ask, why did you come to college? What do you want? What do you want from this? And they say, well, I want to get a job.
Yeah.
That's the main reason most people come. That's the main reason my parents send them to university.
Yeah.
But yet here we offer a liberal education, meaning the liberal arts, right? The kind that free your soul from prejudice, right? From false ways of thinking, from idolatry.
Ignorance.
Yeah, it frees you in that way. The liberal education. That's the core classes. But the way all these students think is they think core classes, those are like the kind of boring classes in the beginning of your education that you get finished with quick, so you can get on to the real stuff.
Yeah.
Like if you're a nurse, so like CPR.
Yeah.
Like that's the real stuff, or the stuff you train to do your job. That's the real stuff. And all this other stuff, that's just sort of stepping stones.
Yeah.
So we think then all this other stuff that they think of as their job is, then I say, well, why do you want a job? And then I run this whole narrative, and basically it's for the American dream. They want a family, they want a house, they want, kids, and that kind of thing. That's sort of the way they think. That's how I think liberalism has co-opted many Christians. So they would say, yeah, I still have those transcendent goods and worship like on the side, right? That leaves all the institutions and structures of society in place again.
But you aren't saying that's a bad goal. I want to get a job so I can have a family.
No, that's a good thing. But the liberal lie is that that's the highest.
Okay.
There's nothing above that. Earthly goods are the highest.
All right.
Right. So I like Joseph Pieper's thesis, right? That one of the big problems in the modern world, or the biggest one he sees, is that it's a world of total work. That's what he calls it.
You talked about that with the men's group. You did. I want to go into that. I actually had that on my notes.
Yes.
Because I remember that as a concept, and you also had another concept the deproletarianism.
Yeah, we'll get to that later.
That's kind of a big fat word. I can barely say it. But let's. So culture you defined. Leisure. Can you give me a definition of leisure?
Yeah, leisure. So we think wrongly about it initially. We think leisure is a time where you can go jet skiing. It's
The
like an
extra
open
time I
it's
have
free time.
to do fun stuff.
Yeah, exactly. But leisure in the old school sense, right, meant you're not at work, meaning you're not doing something just for the product.
Okay.
It meant you're doing it for the intrinsic value of the activity.
Okay.
The activity itself is your end. So think of listening to music.
Well, I was just thinking of gardening for me.
Yeah.
That's
In other words, leisure, right, is a spiritual attitude that somebody has who is doing something that's intrinsically valuable. They're doing it for the goodness,
Okay.
the beauty, the truth in it.
Gotcha.
Leisure is actually an internal attitude. It's not just a free time, right? A time where we're not working, a time at the end of the work week.
Yeah.
So they can refresh and go work again.
So
No,
instead,
it's what the work week's for. It's not the end of the work week. It's
so
the point
leisure
of work.
is the activities
Yes.
that are aimed at our highest good.
It's the activities with that attitude. So I think leisure itself is the attitude.
Okay,
It's
leisure
an
is
internal spiritual
leisure
attitude.
isn't. That's different to me.
Yes.
Leisure is an attitude.
Internal spiritual attitude.
Okay, that's aiming at our good, our highest good,
That's aiming at yes.
which is spiritual
Right.
to me. Right?
Or spiritual might be misleading, I think.
Okay.
It's something that's intrinsically valuable for its beauty, its truth, its goodness.
Some examples. You already gave some. but
Music
give
is
give more.
intrinsically beautiful. You don't listen to it because, your girlfriend's going to think you're awesome. That would be not leisured.
Okay.
That wouldn't be actually getting the beauty out of it.
So
Right.
if I use music to focus on my homework,
Yeah,
that's different than if I listen to music
for itself.
to listen to music.
Yes,
So one's for a use and one's for an end. One's for a means and one's for an end.
exactly.
Okay. So leisure is the attitude in which the activity, the good of the activity is the end of you doing the activity.
Exactly. That's
Okay.
why you're doing it.
I feel like I got there. Okay. So we got culture, we got leisure, total work. So our society's obsessed with total work. I remember that phrase.
It's not just obsessed with total work. It's in a condition where all values, right, are valuable insofar as they contribute to society at the common good as reduced to just the common needs, right? The earthly goods, the material goods, the economic
you kind of lost me there.
goods.
So you kind of lost me. Okay. So total work is, say it again, because you lost me in the total need, common good stuff. I was
Total
like, wait a
work
minute,
is
I thought total work was bad. When you said common good, I thought that was good.
Total work means that work and the values that are associated with working, which are we work to get what we need so we can live,
Yes.
right? All these
Food,
goods in the
shelter,
economy,
my
yes,
rent
those are the
payments,
big
all that,
goods.
whatever, owning, whatever.
We need those. Work is to get those. In a healthy human person, that's part of life. There's other things, which are music, right? Poetry, conversations, the leisured activity, the things that are intrinsically valuable, not because of what they produce in a market, right? Those are things that, in fact, you can't produce, right?
Yeah.
So they have to do with your attitude. That's the only way to get that out of it.
Okay. I think you got there.
So total work
Yes.
is a world, it's an idea that all there is to the world is work
Okay.
and products
Yeah.
and the economy
And people,
earthly
and
goods.
total work means they've forgotten about that. That's just a means to the ends.
Yes.
That becomes the end.
The reason why you take a core
Work
class
is the end.
The reason why you take a core class is so you can get a grade, complete a program, go on to the other classes and get a job.
Right.
That's a work mentality. Everything's justified in terms of how it contributes to the work world.
Yeah. Everything's reduced to its utilitarian value.
Yes. So it's actually there's a philosophical perspective behind this mentality that we get in, this obsession with working, thinking all values are what contributes, right? And that the philosophical view behind it is a view about man. So think about the red feed, blue feed stuff,
Okay.
right? So you got the sort of Austrian school. Like it's not just that values are exchange values. It's that a human being, right, is meant to be just one thing that's in this exchange relationship, is another thing to be exchanged, right? And so mankind himself, as nature, is reduced,
Yeah.
right, to a market environment.
Or his labor is reduced to a commodity. I've heard that
Yes.
phrase before.
Yeah.
That's what you're talking
Exactly. So man is reduced to just a commodity.
All right.
His labor.
about. And that's one feed,
That's
right? Austrian
yes,
school.
there's a philosophical view behind the total work. The other side you might think of as the Marxian side, a communistic view, right? So man, the purpose of man is to have a situation where all the things are shared in this communistic state.
Total equality.
All luxuries, all needs, and they're all there equally for everyone. And so man is ultimately the thing that gets those goodies. Those are all earthly goods.
Yeah.
Again, both these perspectives, there's nothing transcendent.
Yeah. It's
There's nothing
materialism.
ultimate.
It's just materialism.
Yes. So think in terms of the red feed side, right? So von Mises said explicitly, quote, "All actions are transactions."
Wow, that completely undermines the stuff we were just talking about.
How is listening to music for the intrinsic joy a transaction?
Yeah, a transaction
It
for who?
distorts the nature of what it is to listen to music and what music is and what human beings
And
are.
I was going to say, it goes back to the Lewis quote. It distorts what it is to be human.
Exactly.
Yeah, completely.
Exactly.
And that's pretty dark
And
stuff.
since Lewis
That's
said,
pretty dark
that's
stuff,
right.
if you ask me.
And Lewis, look at the social dimension of Lewis's quote. He said, if you ask me what I mean by civilization, I mean the realization of a human idea.